Hi guys, welcome back to the Kholiwe Cooks channel. Today we're making cumin chicken stew. If this is something that you might be interested in, please continue watching. You start off with your chicken that has been cleaned, washed, and my one that I bought from Food Lovers Market actually came with this chicken spice, but you can use your whatever brand chicken spice you like, and to that add some garlic powder. The chicken spice, I would say it's 2 tablespoons that I used for these 6 chicken drumettes, and then a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder. I then followed this up with about half a teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric is just here for the color, you know, that nice yellow tinge, and that is cayenne pepper. I also added about half a teaspoon of the cayenne pepper there. Cayenne pepper is not really hot, it's more like a nice hum. And that is finely ground black pepper. I would say half a teaspoon of that as well. Then my jalapeno chutney from Mrs. Ball's. I really love this. It has a bit of spice, but it has a nice sweetness, which is nice for marinating. So this is my mix for the chicken. I'm doing this obviously on thawed chicken, but you want to have as much time as possible, you know, for this chicken to sit in this little concoction, for it to really absorb the flavors before cooking. So I wouldn't do this immediately before cooking. I did mine overnight. You can even do it for like a whole day. You just obviously massage it into it, cover it, and keep it in the fridge. So I kept mine overnight, but if you do like a day, your chicken will even be nicer and more, you know, tender and flavorful throughout. So yeah, just cover this and keep it in the fridge for that amount of time. Now to cook the chicken that has been marinating over a couple of hours, well, not a couple of hours, but overnight or longer. I am using a pan and using sunflower oil. That's about 2 tablespoons of sunflower oil in the pan on a high heat. Once the oil is hot, bring the chicken that has been marinating and just sear it. So we're gonna put it all in here and make sure we get some good color on it. So what's nice about searing is that you render a lot of fat that's under the skin of the chicken. So if you just went and started braising it without having done this, you know, you'd have a really bad texture on skin when you're actually eating it. But if you first do this before the braise, it does make a huge difference color-wise, flavor-wise, and also just like the experience with the texture on the chicken. So I don't move around my chicken a lot while I'm doing this. I make it get nice color on the one side and then turn it over for the one side to also get some good color on it before removing it. I would say it takes about 5 minutes per side on this high heat before I turn over. So yeah, now I am just turning over so that the other side also gets some color on it. We're not worried about making sure that it's fully cooked because we're still going to braise this quite a bit. So, you know, the pieces that are nicely colored, I'm going to turn. But there are some that, you know, you need a bit more time. So, yeah, that is fine. So this is what my chicken looks like when it's ready. I am incredibly happy with the caramelization on this chicken. I think the chutney actually helps with this because remember the chutney is quite sweet, so you get a lot of caramelization from like sugar and that sort of thing. So that's why it's looking incredible. I'm very happy with this. Yeah, but it's still gonna, we're going on to the next steps now. So I have chopped a whole onion, medium-sized onion, and I am introducing that to the same pan that I was, searing my chicken on. So I'm just gonna cook this onion through. I actually should have just scraped off the caramelized or burnt bits on my pan before actually continuing. I definitely wouldn't have washed it, but it would have helped if I scraped off the actual black bits at the bottom and removed them. But actually, so the ones that I do see, the sizable ones, I am removing while I am, stirring my onions around. As you can see there, just taking them out. Because the actual black bits that you can see are charred, won't obviously be good for flavor, especially when you start braising, because they'll start dissolving into the sauce. So just be careful of that. Otherwise, we do want some form of the flavor from the searing process. That's absolutely what we want. But you just don't want, any burnt bits to really move on. So you're just gonna sear this until obviously it's translucent, and then we go on with the next steps. Once our onion is cooked down, as you can see here, we will then introduce our peppers. I have used 1.5 yellow pepper, but it's the small yellow peppers that I use. So if you're using like a big one, you can just use one. You don't need the extra half. So the peppers are literally one of the main ingredients in this dish. So you want them there. You don't just want to do like half or very little of them. And you can also use like just red peppers, but I like the fact that it's just like one monotone. So if I'm using red peppers, I would have just used red peppers. I wouldn't have mixed them. And for this recipe, I wouldn't want to use green peppers. So yeah, use the sweeter peppers, red or yellow. Now to get some aromatics into our dish, I'm gonna use some coriander, ground coriander. That is about a teaspoon. And then cumin. Cumin is actually much more pungent than coriander. So I am also using a teaspoon of cumin, but it really takes over the dish in a good way. Hence, I'm calling it a cumin braised chicken. Or cumin chicken stew, because the cumin is quite, you can tell it's there when you're tasting this dish, but in a very nice, mellow, beautifully, put together way. So just the coriander and cumin for this dish are really important. And then I put some thyme sprigs, so I just leave them as they are. I think I was just lazy to like pick them off of the stems, and because these stems are quite delicate for this specific time that I have this time around, so I just cook it like that because the flavor of the thyme will infuse into the dish, and once I've braised, it'll be so much easier to remove just the stems because there won't be any leaves on them anymore. So this is not an issue, on my end. Another important herb that we are adding is our curry leaves. Guys, I love curry leaves. So I'm using 2 stems of curry leaves here. And honestly, curry leaves are amazing. There's this flavor that just comes off of them. It's so nice. It's so delicate. It's just like, you need these. Do not, not make this and not use curry leaves, please. Now that we've infused our aromatics, it's time for our chicken to come back in. So I'm just gonna lay it all over the pan. Now for my braising liquid, I'm using these stock powders. So you add 1 teaspoon of that stock powder to a cup of boiling water. You mix it together, and that's what you pour into the, the dish. That is basically your chicken stock. You can use your chicken cubes as well. 1 cube would go with 1 cup as well there. So this is 1 cup. Now let's add a generous amount of black pepper, freshly ground. I also added an additional 1/2 cup of just water to this so that there'd be a bit more braising liquid. So I'm just making sure that my chicken is nicely nestled before we move on to the next step. I'm gonna close this with a lid on very low heat and cook it for an hour. While our chicken cooks, I am gonna prepare some broccoli. I'll start with a whole lot of salt. I'm blanching my broccoli so that it can remain nice and green and vibrant. And when I'm blanching, I always use lots and lots of salt in the water and about a teaspoon or so of bicarbonate of soda. That helps activate our chlorophyll or keep it, whatever. Point is, you want your greens to remain green and not brown throughout the cooking process. I mean, it's an additional step that you might think is useless, but it actually makes a difference in the outcome of the dish and how great it looks. Your greens don't look tired and brown because of the step. Add boiling water to the salt and bicarbonate of soda. Now you can add your broccoli florets that you've cut, and I cook this in this water for exactly 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, transfer the broccoli onto either an ice cold water bath or under cold running water, just to stop the cooking process. This is super important because you want to shock it. This is called shocking. You shock it out of the cooking process so that it doesn't continue cooking in residual heat. After the hour, our braising liquid has reduced significantly. It looks incredible. Remember, it's very important for you to braise it at a very low heat so that it doesn't burn. And it's very important because I don't like adding more liquid once I've started braising anything. The broccoli now goes into our chicken stew. My florets are decimated. I ran them under very harsh running water and actually ruined it. So please just make sure when you're shocking your broccoli, you're very careful because the florets lose that green part at the top quite easily. So I would rather not run them under the water. Just prepare a bath beforehand, ice cold water bath beforehand, and just submerge them in there. That is a better technique to use than the one I've used here today. This dish is now complete. I'm not cooking it any further because the broccoli has already been cooked. So this is literally a final product. It tastes amazing. The chicken is just everything tender and flavorful. And that's it for today's video, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And I'll also need you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I'd really appreciate that. Also, if you try this recipe, please tag me on Instagram. I love to see it.